application of different formulas in our speech. Okay? The most important thing for you is vocabulary and correct position of words. Okay? Vocabulary and correct position of words. And the part that helps a lot is your structures. So I want you to see your structured handbook again, right? I have used this structured handbook with you during the different days, and this has been for some students is a very important material, but for some students they don't study this enough. You need to consider the correct position of words, considering the three most important parts. Okay, we need to consider the three different structures that exist in all conversation. You know, let's talk about that, and let's create a new page talking about the construction of the sentence. Okay, so let's talk about how to use this handbook. Okay, most importantly, formation, sentence formation. Let's see if you understand how to use this application, these words, so you can put words in the correct position. Okay, what are the three forms of expression that we need to correct? What are the three forms of expression that we need to focus on? Who knows? What are we talking about? The three forms of expression that we are using.
Subject, verb, and complement.
You are very close, but that's incorrect. I'm not talking about the three components of a sentence. No. I'm talking about the three forms of expression that exist in the language.
Expression. Okay.
The
Yeah.
6 is
The three times.
location
Present, future.
and description.
Okay, let's organize information. So Laurita said, can you repeat, Laurita?
Location and description.
Location and description is one. Incorrect.
Okay.
Forms of expression. And Benji's talk about time, no? That is also incorrect. We are not talking about time. So let's organize that information.
Formation is person, verb, and complement.
Formation, no.
Because the sentence formation.
Formation, no. We are not talking about formation. We are talking about the forms of expression. Okay? The three different forms of expression. And this is, let's talk about that in clear words.
It's an affirmation.
There we go. You're close.
Question?
Yes. You're close. Excellent. Yes.
Affirmation, question.
Affirmation, question, and?
I don't.
Interrogative, no?
Question is interrogative. It's the same.
A negative.
And negative.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. There are question statements, positive sentences,
A
and
negative.
negative sentence. This is the first things that we need to consider when we speak. And the reason I am using this specific, how can I tell you, form of expression is because I want you to study and to understand when you are using a positive sentence versus a negative sentence. They are different. Of course, they are different. It's different to use a question because the components of a question, a positive sentence, and a negative sentence are put in different order. So when you speak, you need to use the correct position of words. This is something that not a lot of people consider. Okay, when you speak, you need to understand if you are using, if you are saying or writing a question, a positive sentence, or a negative sentence. Yes or no?
Yes.
That's the most important part when you speak. You need to understand the difference between a question, a positive sentence, and a negative sentence. Why? Because of the position of components. Okay, the position of the components of a question, comma, a positive sentence, negative sentence are put in different order. So this is something that were talking yesterday with Benji. Benji was saying, what is the difference between did and do? I did do something. Is this correct? Yes or no? Right? The correct position is that questions need an auxiliary to help the listener with context. Parenthesis, the context, the auxiliary is the context. For information in the next page. Positive sentences in general need the conjugation of the verb. If it's present, past, future, etc., this is indicated with the conjugation of the verb to indicate context. And negative sentences use the auxiliary or need the auxiliary too, but in negative form using not. With this information, you need to understand Auxiliaries. What are the auxiliaries, guys? Who knows?
Do, does,
Okay.
do, does, did,
Do, does. What else?
did,
Did. What else?
will,
Mhm. What else?
could,
Good. Mhm.
could, can,
Good. Can. Mhm.
would,
Would. Very good.
should,
Should. Very good. What
shall,
else? What again?
shall,
Shall. Okay. What
Mm.
else?
must,
Must. We're missing one.
have,
May. Very good. You said have. That's correct.
Might.
Might. Very good. What else?
may,
May.
yeah,
That's it.
okay, may, might, and
Am,
Can you repeat,
had.
Reggie?
Had.
Excellent. The verb be
to be, are,
in all the
is.
tenses. Are, is, was, were, have been, etc.
Mhm.
Going to.
No, going to is not an auxiliary. Going to is a verb. And
Mm.
Laurita said have.
Mhm. Have,
That's right. Have.
Mm,
What happens with have when it's for he, she, it?
has.
Has. That's it. There you have it. If you don't understand the utility of auxiliaries, it's very probable that you commit mistakes. The problems with the structures in questions, affirmations, and negative sentences, the problems with the structures is the utility of an auxiliary. You need to understand in what occasions or what is the auxiliary for. Okay. For example, when you start a question, with did, use of auxiliaries. If you start a question with did, automatically the person starts processing information in past. What information in past?
The verb in past.
The verb in past. Plus what else?
Answer with the verb in past.
Not necessarily. Well, yes, but what is the most important part? One is the verb, but there is another more important.
Subject plus simple past. No?
Similar to Lorita, you're saying the verb in past. Yes, the verb in past, but what is the information in past? The person starts processing information in past. Let me help you. The person
action?
starts again.
An action?
An action. is similar to Laurita and Nisty. Yes, the action, but there is more information. Let me help you. The person starts processing time expressions in past.
Mhm.
What are the time expressions?
Yesterday, last year. Mhm.
Correct.
Mm,
Correct.
Mm.
Automatically, I understand. I start processing this information. If you start, example A, example B. If you start a question with have, automatically, the person starts processing time expressions about other context. What other context are we talking about? If the question starts with have you,
Experience in my life? No.
that's right. Which is what kind of structures?
The answer is with verb in past.
The verb. But pay attention, Laurita. I'm talking about time expressions. Time expressions.
Okay.
What time expressions?
Same
Same, incorrect.
today, last week, month.
Mm-mm.
Always.
Okay, always.
Okay.
What else?
Often.
Often, wrong. That's for routines.
Enough.
Enough is not a time expression.
Okay.
Finally.
Finally, have you finally done? Have you finally done? That doesn't, in what context?
For example, when I told you the history, and for example, and the last sentences connect with finally I found the treasure, for example.
Okay, and what relation has that with have you?
For when I have a objective and I finally resolve the objective.
And what happened to have you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Probably we are not understanding the point. I am talking about the construction of a sentence.
The expression is already.
The expression is already.
The most important thing is the expression time.
Time expression, switch.
The time expression.
Okay.
In this case, have you is experience in my life since
yet.
Ahorita
said already.
Never.
Never. Ever.
Now.
Always.
Now is impossible, Cesar, because now is for ing.
Okay.
Now is for a different formula.
Currently,
Currently. Exactly.
A long time ago.
Since.
A long time ago is for did you. Here is ago,
Yeah.
no for have.
Okay.
That's precisely the importance of this specific logic, because you need to match the time expression with the auxiliary. Together, they give context. If you don't match the auxiliary, the time expression, you don't have context. And I don't understand you. You see? So the correct strategy, you need to match the time expression with the auxiliary. The verb is a different story. The verb is a conjugation. But the auxiliary has a strong relation with the time expression. Take note on that, guys. The auxiliary has a strong connection, no, relation with the time expression of the sentence, because together they build the context of conversation. The auxiliary has a strong relation with the time expressions of the sentence, because together they build the context of the conversation. We need questions. Questions, guys. Let's go.
No,
no
teacher.
teacher.
No, teacher.
The purple is are words, auxiliary words for the response.
No auxiliary words. Time expressions. Time
Okay.
expressions. In a certain, okay, you can say auxiliary words for the auxiliary. You know? But yes, they help the auxiliary with context together.
Okay.
Okay. That's the most important part. If you don't, if you say, for example, common mistakes. Okay. Let's use a question. Let's imagine you have the structure now. Cesar says now. Okay. And then you decide to use the formula I go to the cinema now. Okay. It's very common to commit this mistake because now sounds like present, no? So people incorrectly use a verb in present to speak together with now. This is the biggest problem. So people incorrectly use a verb in present. You know? The auxiliary that corresponds to now is not present. The auxiliary that corresponds to now is this.
The correctly is I'm going to the cinema now.
Exactly. Very good. The formula or the auxiliary that corresponds to now is be plus ing. This is an auxiliary. So the correct expression I am going to the cinema now.
In the first example, I go to the cinema now. Is correct if extracts the word now. Only I go to the cinema.
Correct. Yes. But now let's talk about that. What happens if you only say, I go to the cinema? Is this correct?
Yes.
Incorrect. Well, not incorrect. It depends.
Mhm.
When do you go to the cinema? Anyone?
If is now, we need to use ing.
But if
It's
it's go,
incomplete.
it's incomplete. Exactly, because I don't know when.
Mhm.
So that's precisely the utility of matching time expressions with auxiliaries. This sounds incomplete because we don't have a time expression. What time expressions should we use for a verb in present? For go in this case. 。
It's possible past. I went to the cinema yesterday.
Went
No.
is not similar to say go.
Mm.
Went and go are two different formulas. Any other idea?
I'm going to the cinema. I'm going.
To is not similar to go. Simple go.
Mm-mm.
Help us, guys. What time expression should we match with the verb go? Because if I say I go to the cinema, when do you go to the cinema?
Now?
That's precisely the previous example. It's impossible to say I go to the cinema now. Cesar, when do you go to the cinema?
Today?
Today, is that a plan? If it's a
Today.
plan, is I am going.
In this moment?
In this moment, is I am going.
Is I going? Is present. In this. Is for
Let's
go.
analyze it. So, Cesar,
I do go to the cinema.
when? You
When?
are not answering my question. My question is, when do you go to the cinema?
Okay, when I bored.
When I'm bored. Okay, when I'm bored. And when are you bored? Use a time expression, a purple information. When are you bored?
I bored every weekend.
Every weekend. You see?
Yes.
Every weekend automatically matches a verb in present. A frequency.
Yes.
Oh.
Exactly. So the correct form is I go to the cinema every weekend. Or sometimes. Or once a week. Or always. Or often.
Normally owns.
Ons? What is ons?
No. Normally I go to the cinema when I bored.
Normally. Okay, there you have it.
Okay.
Normally, I go to the cinema every weekend. Normally, I go to the cinema when I am bored. Or I go to the cinema very often. I don't know. You see? What time expression should we use for a verb in present? A verb in present. Go in this case. That's the correct answer. Observations.
No, teacher.
You need to give me observation. What kind of, what is the, what happened in these structures? Check this out. The auxiliary do matches with this context. But the auxiliary be, the auxiliary be matches with different contexts. So what you need to do is to identify the difference, to identify the difference, you must pay attention into the time expression and match it with the auxiliary. Match. This is a very important word. Look at, look at this. Let's use it. It's a match. Do you have Tinder?
No, teacher, no.
No?
Are things of the devil.
You what?
Are things of the devil?
The devil? Yes, no. For you, no.
No, for me, no.
Okay, check this out. It's a match. The auxiliary do should go together. This is an auxiliary. The auxiliary do should go together with the corresponding time expressions. What are the corresponding time expressions? Routines or frequency. Okay. They are really, really, really in love. There's no heart shape. Oh yeah, there's a heart shape here. Perfect. Here we go. There we go. The auxiliary do and the verb in present do for questions, or verbs in present have and they match with these time expressions. Every time, all the people, every time, all the auxiliaries. To identify the difference, you must pay attention to the time expression and match it with the auxiliary and verb form. Do you understand this? Do you have questions? Do you know what I'm talking about? Give me feedback.
Mm, Cri, 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 cri.
Exactly. Yes. Cri, cri. It's a massive, massive cri, cri. I don't know, teacher. So, okay, let's talk about it. Okay. The purple and the auxiliary need to match, no? Okay.
Mhm.
So let's talk about it. Imagine you say, what is a good idea? Imagine you say, use the following. You're going to make questions, okay? Use the verb in brackets to build a sentence that corresponds to the time expression. Okay, that's the challenge. Use the verb in brackets to build a sentence that corresponds a question, corresponds to the time expression. If I tell you using the verb play and the time expressions ever, what would be the question? Play PC games.
Have played ever?
Have played ever, right? Okay, ask me a question. Go, Laurita.
Uh-huh. Have you
Have you
played
played
games ever?
games ever? You're very close, but that's incorrect.
No.
I mean, the auxiliary was correct.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the have.
The
That part
verb
is
is
right.
in past.
Ah,
Okay.
exactly.
Have you played games ever?
Correction. Have you played games ever? That sounds much better. And now there is a little exception. If
Mhm.
the word ever is usually used
Mm,
between the person and the
um,
verb.
okay. Have you ever?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Okay. Have you ever played games?
What kind of games?
Played games.
Look at the instructions. What kind of
PC,
games?
PC,
Excellent.
PC games.
Excellent. That is correct.
Okay.
What Laurita did is that she connected ever with expressions of experience in the past. Which is, there's the handbook, experiences in the past. The word ever is over here. You see? And she used a structure number 6 to build a question. You see what I mean?
Yes, teacher. In this case, we could build the sentence. Mm, no, we could build a question or positive answer or negative answer if we have any that these time expressions.
Yes.
Yet
Yes.
already, just recently, yet already, etc.
Exactly. All these time expressions correspond to the formula have and has, los past participles.
Okay.
But for example, if the expression is ago, the story is different. Three 3 years ago.
Is it only past?
It's only past. Now I am talking about not Formula 6. Now I'm talking about
In this case, we need to use did.
correct. Make the question, Benji.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Did you play PC games? No. You
Benji.
play. You play PC games only?
Only and the time expression.
No. We need to add the time expression too.
Of course, that's the context of the conversation.
Did you play PC games ago.
How long ago?
Okay, did you play PC games? 4 years ago.
In the indications, you have 3. This is the indication. In the indications, you have 3. Look.
Hmm.
You see? This is together. All this.
Okay. Did you play PC games 3 years ago?
Excellent.
Question.
Of course. This is the expression ago is here. This corresponds to the auxiliary did and corresponds to the verb in simple form.
Teacher, in this case, isn't use in, on, or at
It depends.
in 3 years ago is possible?
In 3 years ago, impossible. No, no, no. In 3 years is for the future. Ago is for the past.
Okay,
So that's contradictory.
okay, isn't use the words in, on, or at.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's correct. That's in, on, or at is a different example. Of course, you need to match the time expression, but not all the time expressions necessarily together. Probably one, probably other, but only one. You got it?
Get it.
Yes.
Okay. Study your structures because tomorrow we continue with this exercise.
Okay, teacher.
Okay.
Thank you, teacher.
Formulas. Let's finish for the moment. Let's have it over here. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
See
See you later.
everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.